Welcome back to The Lead. We're sticking with our breaking news. After a shootout with police, Ahmad Khan Rahami, whom the FBI believes is behind Saturday night's terrorist attack in New York City, as well as 3 other separate bomb plots, 2 in New Jersey, he's in custody. Joining me now to talk about the case, CNN national security contributor Mike Rogers, a former Republican chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. Also with me is CNN national security analyst Juliette Kayyem, a former assistant secretary at the Department of Homeland Security. Thanks both for being here. So, Congressman, let me start with you. The NYPD says they're not actively seeking anyone else, but they cautioned everybody to be vigilant, eyes and ears open. But it's hard to imagine that he did this totally by himself.
No way he did this by himself. You have 2 pretty lengthy destinations away, lots of similarities in the production of the explosive devices. So normally the way this would work, you'd have a cell that could do logistics, meaning they're the ones that either the bomb maker and assembly of the bomb components, which could cell, and then operational the other. Even if you merge that and said one small cell is going to do both of these events, you had to have lots of activity go in to both of these locations. The odds that this was one person acting alone is just infinitesimally small.
And by the way, if people haven't heard, it's not just rhetoric when people say keep your eyes and ears open. The bartender that recognized Ahmad Rahami recognized him from CNN, from having seen his face on CNN. Juliette, it's still early and facts might change, but at this point, what do you think are the most important things investigators need to determine?
Well, there's going to be 2 pieces of this investigation. One will be familiar to most anyone who watches Law and Order. That's just an investigation. You have a person. Is he speaking? What is he saying? He has family members. He has co-workers, friends. You just figure out what his network is and if anyone was involved, exactly what Mike was saying. The second is going to be his online signature, his online footprint, drilling down on who he may have been talking to, what websites, any encrypted discussions, and then merging those 2 pieces to see whether there was anyone else involved, and secondly, whether there was an international influence, international direction. I will say just one thing on this is similar, is he did not appear to have an exit strategy. This is what I always find interesting. These guys are willing to do it, but no exit strategy. So it may be that he can plan a lot, but he had no one to help him get out of a situation. He wasn't far from his home when he was found. We have the same was true here in Boston.
Yeah, very, very unusual. Congressman, Donald Trump this morning said that local police often know who these individuals are, but they're afraid of being accused of profiling, and that law enforcement needs to profile more. You're a former FBI agent. Is that true? Is that accurate? Does law enforcement need to be less politically correct?
Well, there's 2 kinds of profiling. There's racial profiling, which never works. We should at all costs. As a matter of fact, there should be no cost paid to racial profiling. There's also something called criminal profiling, where you fit a specific pattern of activity that relates back to either a terrorist act or a criminal act. And so criminal profiling would be wholly appropriate in this case. Somebody who's traveling back and forth to Afghanistan, if they have other leads that would say, hey, this person, it sounds he's becoming more radicalized, then if you put those things together, it becomes a criminal profile. Just saying that we're going to profile everybody who is of this religion or of this race, that never works. We should never use it in America, but there is a distinct difference. I do think police officers are feeling that that line gets blurred between criminal profiling and racial profiling, and they're not sure where that line is. We need to make sure that law enforcement has support for criminal profiling in all cases, criminal cases and terrorism cases.
Juliette, the perpetrator of this weekend's plots, he used pipe bombs and a pressure cooker bomb with pellets. Does that reveal anything to you about the capability and planning involved in the attacks?
Well, what I don't know yet, I don't think what we know yet, is what was the runway for radicalization. That is the most important thing, because, while this was devastating in many ways, he had a 25% success rate from what he built. So it appears that he was building something very quickly and may not have had the training or the time to figure out a better sort of success rate. But in terms of what he built, none of that is surprising to me. All of that, unfortunately, is readily available on the Internet, and the purchase of various materials for the detonation is nothing unique. You could, just with a little bit of time, you could pull this together. So I'm not surprised by what he utilized, but we have to also remember he did not have a high success rate, which may have something to do with how sophisticated he was as a terrorist.
Both the terrorist in St. Cloud, Minnesota, Adan, and this terrorist Rahami in New York, came to the country when they were very, very young. Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump both have said we need to improve vetting in this country. Is there any vetting that could have spotted these two? My understanding is that both were boys when they came to the United States.
Right. So in any case like this, radicalization happens. It's an affirmative event in someone's life. It's a disruptive event in someone's life. So somebody in both of those families noticed something different at some point. So at least one, we know for sure, went to Afghanistan, and that likely changed his behavior. And when he came back, so that normally is the initiation phase of radicalization, something that someone he met, someone they introduced him to in Afghanistan and his circles of friends or family there. And then when he came back, he continued it. Now, he either did it two ways, with an individual that he had comfort with that walked him along that radicalization path, and or a combination of social media as well. That is likely to have happened. You'll see this unfold in the days and weeks ahead. Somebody interested, because if you look at their profile of their life up to that point, pretty average American life. They were doing the kind of things Americans do. Yeah. Somewhere along the way, there was a disruptive event. That's what I think law enforcement's going to focus on now, including intelligence overseas. They'll look at that Afghan connection to try to find out if other Americans who are traveling to Afghanistan are traveling in those same circles.
All right, former Congressman Mike Rogers and Juliette Kayyem, thanks to both of you. Really appreciate it.